Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is part 2, the conclusion of my Skenco ULTRA SHOCK versus Beeman Crow Magnum comparison. If you haven't watched the part 1 of this video, probably a good idea to go back and reference the test I did with the glycerin soap, which is where these 4 rounds came from, and the clay test, which is where those 2 rounds on top came from, as well as the 2 rounds from the clay test and the 4 pulled from the glycerin soap on the Crow Magnum side. Nice, clean, consistent looking pellets. This is not the tub the Crow Magnums came in. I just like the plastic tub because it doesn't really dent the pellets much. The Ultra Shocks I needed a larger container for, so they are in the a steel tin, but still nice, really consistent, really clean, really smooth, no casting mark pellets. The Ultra Shocks, in conclusion, flatten out on average about 1.2 millimeters more than the Crow Magnums when measured with my handy dandy Centec digital micrometer purchased from Harbor Freight. 1.2 millimeters doesn't sound like a lot to be flattening out on average more than the competing round here, but if you think that the round only starts out as 4.5 millimeters to begin with, and you gain on average 1.2 millimeters more flatten out with this one than this one, that's almost 25% of the initial size of the round that's being added in flatten out to this one. I know it sounds kind of confusing. I am not the best person at explaining math-related equations and such, but in a nutshell, the biggest one of these to flatten out was 8.06 millimeters, and the biggest one of these to flatten out was 6.43 millimeters, so you do the math. Because the Ultra Shocks flatten out so wide, they do not pass into a steel can, even though they crack the surface. Very wide footprint left by these Ultra Shocks. Crow Magnums, on the other hand, did penetrate into the steel can. They did not pass out the other side. That's actually the other side's been passed through already by different pellets, but the Crow Magnums are actually still inside this can. And passed through one side but not the other. You kind of see they dented but didn't pass through. Why didn't the Ultra Shock go through? The Ultra Shock flattened out harder. That's just point blank, I believe, to be the case here. The Ultra Shock flattened out harder, flattened out faster, became a larger diameter impact, and therefore did not pass through the steel. The Crow Magnum, being a lighter, smaller in diameter, ultimately round passed through the steel but did not go through the backside. When I took these 2 rounds to the Chrony, I had a high value of 861 feet per second with the Beeman Crow Magnums and a low value of 850 feet per second with the Crow Magnums, which would mean there's a high value of foot-pounds 12.84 and low value of foot-pounds 12.84 and a high value of foot-pounds of 13.17. When these ones passed through the Chrony, 787 feet per second was the low value recorded, and the high value recorded was 809 feet per second. So basically we have 13.16 foot-pounds and 13.9 foot-pounds spread on that. The average, 13 foot-pounds with the Beemans, 13.54 foot-pounds with the Ultra Shocks, along with a round that grenades in a soft target. Less than $1 more for the same amount of Ultra Shocks as it is Beemans. $11 for 300, $12 for 300. All in all, pretty cool comparison between two highly effective pellets, but it would seem like the Beeman Crow Magnum has some stiff competition from the new lineup of Skenco pellets. Alright guys, well, there's the results. You be the judge. Rate and subscribe.